And now on the Ron Johnson Show, we have a new segment called This or That. Do I want this? Do I want that? You got to weigh the options, and then Sam's going to weigh in a little bit on what he would take. I'm excited about this one. All those watching on YouTube, thank you. Those that are subscribed to the podcast, please continue to do so wherever you get your podcast, and make sure you share and tell your friends about it. The Ron Johnson Show, Locked On Sports Minnesota. Please continue support. We thank you. Sam, this or that? Let's go.
This guy or that guy. There's a theme today, Ron. The theme is one of them is cheap. One of them is expensive. They're all pretty good football players, all right? Your choice number one. And again, the premise of the game today, you have to take into account the contract. Okay. So who would you have, money included, who would you have right now on your team? Would you have the cheaper Justin Jefferson or the more expensive Cooper Kupp?
So this one is kind of easy for me. This is easy, and this is why. I would take Justin Jefferson with the money. If him and Cooper Kupp had the same money, I'm still taking Justin Jefferson. I think Justin Jefferson's ceiling has not even been close to being seen. I watch him warm up. I watch him work out. I watch him do a lot of things in the offseason. I watch him do it in practice. His footwork, his shiftiness, I'll call it, his ability to just do a route. You're like, what is that? And then you see it in a game. You're like, oh, wow, that worked. I don't think we've seen half of what Justin Jefferson can do if you just feed him, if you just let him work, if you just say, hey, I'm going to put you in the slot now. You have a choice route. Make this guy miss. There's going to be a lot of that, like a lot of, I guess, playground football, you can call it. But that's what young coordinators, innovation, that's what they do. We've talked about this for years, about innovation. I'm a big, or not me, my kids are Sunday kids. You know, they love to go to places where you can make your own little ice cream and they have all the toppings. I always felt like the Vikings office at times will just grab vanilla ice cream, walk out. Maybe a little whipped cream, but they're walking out. I'm ready to see this vanilla ice cream with maybe a little bit of chocolate on the side or cookies and cream on the side. And then you got the whipped cream. And then you got the gummy bears. And then you got the sprinkles. And then you throw in a little of those bubbles. I don't know what those things are. They're pretty good. You throw the little juices in there. And that's where I go with that. That's where I think this offense can get. That's where I think Justin Jefferson can get better. So contract for contract, it was the same. I mean, if the way it is now, it's definitely Jefferson. But if it was the same, I'm still going to take Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and Kupp hasn't, he had a record-breaking season. Hasn't proven that he can do this back-to-back years yet. He took 5 years to do what he did last year. Before that, he was solid. He was like a solid number 2, number 3 receiver. He was not a star until age 28. Jefferson was a star at age 21 and age 22. He's turning 23 in 6 days. So he's way ahead of the Kupp track. And I think I would definitely take the expensive or cheap version of Justin Jefferson as well. How about this one, Ron? A couple of opposites. I know you've weighed in on these guys before, but the expensive Kirk Cousins, who you've said that pound for pound, you like Cousins more than Kyler Murray as a quarterback. But what about when you take the contract into account, with Murray being cheap right now and Cousins being expensive?
So that's a little bit tougher now. So what you get out of Kyler Murray with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, you get a mobile quarterback. You get a guy that can move and really scare people out of just doing their basic stuff and blitzing. If you miss, he's gone. You have to spy him. He adds a different level of defensive protection that they have to protect themselves from letting Kyler Murray with his legs just beat them. And I frame it up this way, and this is a tough one for me. And Kirk Cousins' contract. Kyler Murray, though, is wanting, like, some of the stuff he's doing in the offseason, he's wanting. So I'm going to add the antics to this one, too. I'm going to take Kirk Cousins because I don't feel like Kirk would ever truly do. Kirk doesn't care about social media. I don't think he would scrub the Vikings from his social media. I don't think that's him. But I could be wrong. Like, he could be totally one of those guys that, secretly does all that stuff and tweets, Stephon Diggs type stuff, or receivers. They all do it. You look at Juju, you look at Antonio Brown, they all tweet when their emotions are involved with sports. But I'm going to take Kirk Cousins for the simple fact of a true passer. I don't think Kyler Murray is a complete true passer. Yes, he can throw the ball, but I think he needs a different coordinator or somebody that can really get him going and do some things. I just feel like the contract stuff, Kirk's come back to the pack now. So, and Kyler's coming up on a new big deal. He wants a new big deal. So I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins on that one.
I think this is the toughest one of the bunch. I am also torn because I think Kirk Cousins gives you the consistency and he gives you that level-headedness that Murray lacks. But also Murray's kind of a unicorn. Like the way that he can move with this unbelievable rocket arm in that sort of like small body, it's crazy what he can do on the football field. He can do stuff that no one else can do. When you have a player that unique, I think I'm going to bet on the upside and trust that when he does become expensive and he does get a little older, that he will round out and become more consistent. So for that reason, I will take the cheaper Murray in the hopes that you can harness all of that athleticism and make him into something great.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, let's do a defensive one. The cheap Nick Bosa, 15.5 sacks last year. He's 3 years into his career, probably getting paid next year about this time. Danielle Hunter. He's been hurt 2 years in a row, but he's Danielle Hunter, and he's also expensive. You taking the pricey Danielle or the cheap Nick Bosa?
When you look at 15.5 sacks in one season, yes, he was hurt as well. Like, because people are like, oh, Danielle's always hurt. He was hurt last year as well. But he did make it through the whole season pretty much. 15.5 sacks, $33 million contract over 4 years. So cheaper than Danielle. I think Danielle's at like 50 or something like that. I can't remember. I got to go with Nick Bosa on this one. When you look at the 3-4 versus 4-3, Nick Bosa stands up a little bit more than Danielle. Like, he comes from that stand-up position a little bit more. He looks a little bit comfortable, a little bit more comfortable doing it. So I gotta go with Nick Bosa on this one. Like, I think just from a standpoint of defensive guys sometimes are plug and play. A guy that had 15.5 sacks. And again, Danielle might come out and have 16 sacks. We don't know. 18, who knows? But in this instance, I'm gonna go Nick Bosa.
I lean Bosa as well. I mean, you kind of always give a little preference to that cheaper guy, and Bosa, I know he was hurt 1 year, but I think the Bosa name helps a little bit too when you know that there's just sort of this family history of being so talented. You get the sense that he's probably going to have a long and prosperous career. You just kind of instinctively know that because he's a Bosa and he's got a lot of good years left in him, and he's on a team that values that edge pass rush in San Francisco. So I'm going to go with Bosa as well. The 2 years of Danielle injuries spook me a little bit. We'll see what he can do in the 3-4, but I'm going to go with the cheaper guy as well. So I guess I took the cheap guy for all three.
Yeah, you're a money guy.
Yeah.
Gracie would like you. But I'm going to go with Kirk, Justin Jefferson, and then give me Nick Bosa.